Welcome to the Property Buyer Podcast, where we explore the world of residential and commercial real estate to help you make better decisions about buying, selling, or investing in all types of property. Join me, Rich Harvey, CEO of propertybuyer.com.au and multi-award-winning buyer's advocate. Our podcast features expert interviews, market trends and insights, and practical tips for navigating the complex world of Australian real estate. Whether you're a home buyer, a seasoned property investor, commercial buyer, developer, or simply curious about the property market, our podcast is for you. Join us as we share our knowledge, strategies, and experience and help you achieve your property goals. Welcome again to another edition of the Property Buyer Podcast. I'm Rich Harvey, and today on the podcast we're very privileged to have Mr. Matt Corbett, our Principal Buyers Agent for the Northern Beaches, joining us. Now, Matt has developed a stellar reputation over almost 2 decades with Property Buyer, helping families, downsizers, expats and investors find their dream home and top performing properties across the Northern Beaches. He's widely regarded as one of the most trusted buyers agents in Sydney, with deep local knowledge, strong relationships with selling agents and a sharp ability to read the market. Matt has personally guided hundreds of clients through auctions, off-market purchases and complex negotiations, always with the singular goal of getting the best property at the best price. In this episode, we're going to tap into Matt's insights into the current market, where the good value buys are, buyer demographics and key pockets of value across the Northern Beaches. Plus, we'll hear some fantastic stories about how he's helped clients achieve great success. So Matt, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Rich, and thank you for the very nice introduction.
All my guests say that. They always go, wow, that was a great introduction. And as you know, we have a tradition on our podcast where we have a bit of a philosophical bent. I throw a quote at you, and I'd just love to get your thoughts on that. And our quote today is from good old Abraham Lincoln, who said, "It's not the years in your life that count, it's the life in your years." What do you take from that?
Right. Look, I think, Rich, I guess what that's saying is that the value in life isn't measured by the length of your life, but more by how fully you live your life. What truly matters is how you spend the time you have, whether that's with family or friends and making memories. To live with intention, quality over quantity, I guess. Almost reminds me of the Kipling,
Yes.
That says that if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds of distance run. I think don't put off today what you can do tomorrow.
Love it.
And I think basically that can certainly relate to buying property as well. So, quality definitely more important than quantity.
Fantastic. Oh, great thoughts on that one. Yeah, it's very much, we know of lots of people that really let their life waft away, and I think it's what you put into your life. I love that comment about intentionality, and I think that's excellent. Matt, let's dive into the questions. I've got some hard-hitting questions for you. We're going to get inside your brain today, if that's okay.
Sure. Okay.
So tell us firstly, what's the current mood of buyers on the Northern Beaches right now? Are you seeing confidence, hesitation, people holding back? What's going on in the market?
Yeah, it's actually a bit of a mix, to be honest. I think the confidence has certainly returned to the market, with lower interest rates and overall less negative press.
Yes.
Consumer confidence, but it's certainly not a hot market. There's always a lag period after such rate drops, but we are seeing a lot more inquiry at the BA level as we've come into spring. This time of year is quite unique as those that aren't ready to go often use the end of year as an excuse not to buy.
Yes.
I had someone the other day that said, we'll just put it on ice, until the new year. I actually think that's a mistake for two reasons. I think things don't get easier next year. Life doesn't stop and allow you time to solely concentrate on buying a property. And also, this time of year, there's often great opportunities to buy leading into December as many vendors and selling agents, they want closure.
Yes.
And much of the buyer competition actually put the queue in the rack this time of year.
It's kind of interesting, isn't it? That Christmas deadline's an artificial deadline, and people think I'm going to transact before it, or I'm just going to, as you say, put the queue in the rack and do it later. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think that also that mentality of, as I said, that that, we'll do it tomorrow. It's an easy decision to make not to do something.
Yes. Yeah.
Not taking action is the simple solution, but eventually you're going to have to do it. So
exactly.
Why not do it now?
Yeah, great question, great answer. Auction clearance rates, like we see the results every week presented in the press. Last week, the auction clearance rate, specifically on the Northern Beaches, was 75.1% out of 51 auctions. But what are you seeing or observing on the ground compared to the broader Sydney market? What's happening in the Northern Beaches?
You're spot on with your statistics there, Rich. Look, it's slightly below the Sydney average, but higher than the same time last year. Yeah. So it's, things have certainly improved in terms of market. Buyer numbers are reasonable, and they are in line with other areas of Sydney on the Northern Beaches. But I think if we look back a few months ago, agents were really happy to negotiate and sell prior to auction. I mean, most properties weren't even making the auction. Yes. But now we're sort of at that period where agents are happy to take it through to auction, but still, if you put in a reasonable offer, there's still an opportunity, to purchase beforehand. So yes. I think things have certainly improved.
Yeah, cool. And looking back, like just this spring compared to the earlier in the year over winter and autumn, has buyer activity really shifted? Has it really taken off, or is it still a bit subdued? What are you seeing out there?
I wouldn't say it's taken off, but definitely improved.
Yes, right.
Yeah, I think it's definitely increased from earlier months this year. It's not frantic, but buyer numbers at open homes have increased. The days on market have decreased. Our buyer inquiry has certainly increased as well. I think early in the year it was, it was tough. I mean, I think every agent found that, but certainly we're getting really good levels of inquiry now. Earlier this year, we saw significantly lower buyer numbers, which actually resulted in properties taking longer to sell, and we saw some vendor discounting as well. Agents, as I mentioned before, were willing to negotiate and sell prior to auction to anyone that had a fair and reasonable offer. This has definitely settled. Agents are willing to go to auction if the vendor's expectations aren't met. This said, I wouldn't classify the market as strong, but more steady.
Yeah, and I think it's got a momentum, hasn't it, at the moment? That's what I'm seeing.
It's the wheels are starting to turn. Yeah. But we're not racing. No. But I think that'll continue for the rest of this year. But in the new year, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah. So let's talk specifically about property values on the Northern Beaches. Are we seeing pockets of resilience, or are we seeing any softening in prices in certain suburbs, do you think?
Yeah, look, I had a look at some stats earlier, and the current median price for houses on the beaches is 2.7, 45 mil. I know it's come a long way, but it's a 1.7% increase in the last 3 months. 4% in the last year. So definitely, proves the point of that things are picking up. This comes, it's probably important to mention, this comes from following a dip in the previous year. So, if you look at a graph, we're actually similar to where we were mid-2022 into the end of 2023.
It's funny you just mentioned 2.7 as a median, if we can jump in there. I just think when I first bought into the Northern Beaches, I paid $620,000 for my house 21 years ago, right? Yeah. 620,000.
And you probably thought it was a lot of money.
And I thought it was a lot of money back in the day. So people paying 2.7 go, wow, how can I afford that? Fast forward 20 years and it's going to be 5-6 million.
Absolutely.
As a standard.
It's hard to believe, but here we are.
It's true. It's amazing.
And if we're here in a few years' time, I'm sure we'll be looking back saying the same.
Yeah.
Similarly, unit prices, they've actually got a median of 1.225 million. Wow. Which is a similar increase in the last 3 months, and actually a 3.8% increase over the last year, which is actually similar to houses. A little surprising there. But what I've noticed, though, is in terms of softening, suburbs such as Avalon, Bilgola, they've softened quite a bit since the massive boom during COVID, returning back in line with where they were.
Why is that, do you think?
Yeah, look, I mean, during COVID, we had this massive influx of of people, I think, believing that they would work from home forever. And I guess the idea of coming to the Northern Beaches and being able to duck out at lunchtime and have a swim or go for a bushwalk or whatever was most appealing. So, funny enough, I bought 23 houses in a row, and all the inquiry was from Collaroy North.
There you go.
And Avalon was just the most popular area. Traditionally, I buy a lot more south of Collaroy, and that's where we are now. But during that COVID period, there was this explosion of up north.
It's interesting because a lot of people never bought past the bends, right?
Yeah,
They call them the Avalon Bends. Like
absolutely.
it was always that little bit too far up the Northern Beaches.
Yeah.
You know, nothing further than Newport. Right?
Yeah, it's almost like the wave's gone out.
Yeah, and the wave's come back.
Now it's come back.
Okay.
We're getting back to what was, was pre-COVID, what I'd say more normal with.
Okay.
We still have inquiry up there. It's a beautiful part of the world, but people are being called back into the office into the city a bit more.
So, Matt, I want to delve a bit more into the market dynamics. What price brackets are moving fastest? Is it entry-level homes? Is it mid-range family houses or prestige waterfronts? What's rising the fastest?
Yeah, the lower to mid-price brackets are moving faster in comparison to prestige properties and waterfronts, as you suggested. And that's, they've been settled now for about 12 to 18 months, so the prestige market.
Yes.
It's a little too early to blow the whistle, but I sense the prestige market is waking up. So if you're in the market for a waterfront, some of the best buying opportunities I've seen in years can now be seen in suburbs such as Newport, Church Point and Bayview.
Yes.
How long will this last? I obviously can't say, but just some really good opportunities right now in the prestige market.
Awesome. Yeah, great. So we've had a couple of interest rate cuts this year. How do you think interest rate cuts and lending conditions are playing into local buyer behaviour?
Yeah, well, look, several interest rate cuts and the expectation of more
to come.
They've not only affected the pockets of buyers, but they've also given buyers confidence moving forward. Yeah. Someone said to me many years ago when I first started in the industry that consumer confidence is the key. In the key. So and I expect to see increased buyer activity. We're certainly seeing it now, but a lot more in the new year, making the next few months an excellent time to buy, as I said before. So, this may be the calm before the storm.
Yeah. I think the Bank of Mum and Dad is very active in that first home buyer market. The Bank of Mum and Dad, the fifth biggest bank in Australia.
Yeah, I've actually...
there's a lot of investors out there competing with the Bank of Mum and Dads for that lower end stock. And the other factor that's coming on the 1st of October, obviously, is the 5% deposit scheme, where the government's going to basically say you only need a 5% deposit instead of a 20% deposit. That extra 15% where you normally pay lender's mortgage insurance, that's going to be covered by the government now. Not that the government won't cough up the 15%, but they cover the cost of the insurance, right? So I just think that's going to rapidly accelerate that bottom end of the market. Very strong.
Yeah, and I do think that, as you say, the Bank of Mum and Dad, I think, that's something that's going to continue. I think I've often come up against at auctions or negotiating against people with the Bank of Mum and Dad. It's been very frustrating. Yes. But some of my clients now, are getting support by their parents, which, I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, it's a good thing. Matt, let's talk about buyer dynamics and buyer types and demographics, I should say. I'd love to ask you, who are the main buyer groups that you're working with at the moment? Is it families, downsizers, expats, investors? Who are the buyers?
A bit of everything. But at the moment, the majority of my clients are home buyers. And I think that has been the case in the Northern Beaches for quite some time. Although I did recently purchase a beautiful beachfront unit in North Stane for an expat investor. He will eventually live in it, but that might be a decade away.
Yes.
I'm currently working with a local family seeking a prestige home at circa 15 million, and also looking for a family to upsize and move closer to their workplace. And a young couple also looking to buy their first home. So it's a bit of a mix. Other clients I've recently purchased for include 2 expats and an interstate buyer relocating to Sydney. But I haven't got any downsizers at the moment, but I have looked after many downsizers over the years.
And we should just qualify for our listeners and our viewers that we do cover all price ranges. We help first home buyers, with say 750 grand trying to get into the market. We look after the upsizers, the downsizers in that middle range market. That's a very popular one. Plus we help the prestige market. It's across the board. This is a great question for you, Matt. I mean, you and I both live on the Northern Beaches. We know the answer to this question.
Totally biased, but yeah.
But what's the lifestyle drivers? Like, what attracts people to live and want to move either into the Northern Beaches or within the Northern Beaches?
Sure.
And why does it get its name Insular Peninsula?
I think it gets its name Insular Peninsula because we don't want to leave.
Exactly.
We don't want too many other people coming in.
It's a well-guarded secret. Don't let it out.
But yeah, look, I think we have some of the finest beaches in the country, including the world-renowned Manly Beach and the coastline that stretches north all the way to Palm Beach. Multitude of surf clubs in between. If you like boating or any still water activities, I know you like to water ski, Rich. Pittwater's a fabulous waterway with some of home to some of the country's best sailors. So there are a few places I know where you can go for an early morning swim or a surf and then go hiking in a national park and all before lunchtime. I think there's also fabulous cycling routes, although sometimes where I come from they get in my way when I'm driving. But out to West Head, multiple mountain biking trails as well, Terry Hills and Narrabeen, just to name a couple. But the Northern Beaches, it's also home to Sydney's most successful, or one of Sydney's most successful athletic clubs, and some of the finest golf courses. They've got Monash, Eleanora Country Club, Terry Hills. There's a number of football fields, cricket and tennis clubs with local competitions for all standards. I know you play on Mondays. But it's not all about leisure. The Northern Beaches is serviced by express buses and ferries into the city. Includes a major shopping centre hub at Warringah Mall, which is one of the largest open-air malls in the country. Also has some excellent cafes and restaurants, and I think we don't get known for this. I often hear about, inner west cafes and restaurants.
But, there's a great cafe culture on the beaches.
We do, we certainly do. But above all, I think the Northern Beaches it's just a fantastic place to raise a family. It's very safe.
Yes.
Crime statistics, are very low compared to other areas of Sydney. And I just think this is a lovely place to raise a family.
No, it's really, well, just to reiterate some of that too, like in terms of lifestyle amenities, like I got up early this morning and did a round of golf at 6 o'clock, So, I did my 9 holes.
How did you hit them?
Oh, fantastic. Got some great ones. I was the first one on the course. So
beautiful.
Hit off at sunrise. It was beautiful down at Wakehurst.
Lovely.
And often I'll go for a surf or a swim down at the beach. I'm only 10, 15 minutes to the beach. And as you mentioned, I love going boating. I take my boys out wakeboarding, water skiing down to Coona Bay. It's and you're in the middle of nowhere, and it's incredible.
It is.
And as you talk about the safety aspect, and for raising family, there's some great schools on the Northern Beaches. Really great schools, and a lot of people are worried, how am I going to raise my kids? But it's a very tolerant, accepting cultural background. It's diverse, very, very diverse range of people, but very laid back. There's I find the Northern Beaches is more laid back than the East or the Inner West, where it seems a little bit more competitive, and obviously the houses are closer together. Here you've got a little bit more green space and everything here. So it's something, as you say, once you're here, it's paradise. You love it.
I often go down to Church Point Cafe and you sit there and have a meal, and it's not too expensive, and you look out there and you think, you could be anywhere in the world. It's absolutely beautiful.
Well, when you go overseas, like sometimes I've been overseas on trips, and I come back and I go down to do the walk at Longreef or sit on Manly Beach, and I go, we've got a far better. Why did I go overseas? The beaches here are beautiful, and not as crowded. So.
Absolutely, and I think too, if you compare it to the eastern suburbs, I recently did a walk down the eastern suburbs, and the coastline there is beautiful.
Oh, stunning.
Shout out to the eastern suburbs there also, but as far as swimming beaches, they've probably only really got in the eastern suburbs property proper 2 or 3 in comparison to 15 to 20 in the northern beaches.
And all got their local swimming pools attached at the end of the beach as well. So,
my boy actually had to do for school. He had to do a swimming challenge recently, and we actually went to pretty much every single pool on the beaches for variety, and it was
fantastic.
Astonishing just how many there were.
Wonderful.
And one other thing, Rich, when you mention schools, I think people don't often think of the northern beaches for schools, but we do have some excellent schools. But in addition to that, the schools that are in the upper North Shore, some of the great private schools up there, the buses pick the kids up.
Yes.
And I know down at Bayview Tennis Court, I might have a hit down there in the morning, and all the school buses line up. The Knox, the Ravenswood, etc. They're all down there. So I think it's not that far.
Exactly.
To commuting to those private schools.
Exactly. Yeah, good points. So last question about demographics. Are you seeing any demographic shifts? For example, are younger families leaving the inner city, or are retirees cashing out of larger homes? What's happening in terms of the buyer mix?
Yeah, look, the beaches is still primarily a place for young families. I've actually known a lot of my friends over the years that have moved out of the northern beaches, and then when they were single or or a couple, but once they've had children, they've actually come back, to the northern beaches. A great place to raise a kid, safe environment as mentioned. But there's also a significant number of retirees who equally love the lifestyle. In the past few years, we've seen a large number of inner city and North Shore buyers sell up their large homes and looking for a sea change. Manly's a suburb that I'd mentioned. It's traditionally known for younger folk, nightlife, backpacking tourists, but we've seen an influx in the last 5 to 10 years of retirees. I mean, any time, say, before 10 p.m, if you take a walk in Manly, you'll see a huge number of over 55s, in the restaurants and cafes and bars. So I think, as I mentioned, COVID before, we also coincided with a lot of relocation from the eastern suburbs, where buyers saw great comparative value, and this has continued in recent times. I actually recently bought for one particular couple who traded they had a duplex in Paddington for a house on 800 square metres and a waterfront reserve, and they had some spare change as well. So it just gives you an indication of the value that you can get in the northern beaches, and really a completely different lifestyle.
So talking of value, and I think this is going to be the real, what I call cracker for the podcast, or the value part. What suburbs or pockets of value on the northern beaches do you think currently offer the best value for money? So let's get specific about suburbs. What have you got on your list?
Yeah, well, look, I do. Once again, I would say the whole northern beaches offers good value in comparison to other areas of Sydney. But in terms of affordability, suburbs such as Newport, for what you get, Elanora Heights, Cromer, Wheeler Heights and Manly Vale, they offer all the benefits of the northern beaches, but at a more affordable price than their neighbouring suburbs. So, Wheeler Heights neighbours Collaroy Plateau, Elanora Heights is just up the mountain there. Probably gets a little bit of flack because it doesn't have the B line and the bus routes, but the size of the blocks you get up there, and it's got a nice little shopping centre up there, very peaceful, and even Bilgola Plateau and suburbs like that, the people that live there love it. It's just a real it's very, very serene, quiet environment. You don't get a lot of through traffic. So I think those areas, but you could also venture a little further west to Belrose and Davidson. What's happened up there in the last few years with the shopping centre being rebuilt, some excellent cafes and food up there is terrific. You've got the cinema, gymnasiums, AstroTurf, new fields, etc. A lot of young families, that whole area's been rejuvenated. So we're seeing a lot of older houses that are being either renovated or knocked down, rebuilt, and there's certainly good value up there. Yeah. And when you look at what you get there compared to the North Shore, which is not that further over, significant difference. I mean, Forestville's a classic suburb, but Forestville and Killarney, that, you know, if you just go across the Roseville Bridge, you know, you're paying $1 million more.
1 to 1.5
plus,
or 2 million.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, for the same. And if we're talking East Linfield, maybe $3 million more for the same, for a very similar product.
Yeah, so. Well, I've got some data I'd love to share, Matt, with the audience today, and just talking about some specific median prices. Belrose, you mentioned, it's got a current median of 2.45 million. But what's interesting, in the last 5 years, prices have increased 148%, but over 10 years, 186% price increase for Belrose. Yeah. If we look at Davidson, currently at 2.37, and it's increased 175% over the last 10 years. Elanora Heights is at 2.35. Again, you talked about it being a good value pocket, and I also like Elanora because some of the land blocks get beautiful views over Narrabeen Lakes or the ocean, and it's got that almost semi-rural feel as well. And similarly, its prices have increased 180% over 10 years. Yeah. Forestville, current median 2.43. Its prices have increased 176%.
We've seen some huge sales in Forestville. Yeah. I've
some runs
in
recently,
the last couple
million.
of years, $5 million. Yeah. And, you know, a lot of magnificent homes being built.
That's right. Yeah.
You know, I mean, Forestville's great. You've got the shopping centre, which, you know, I remember, I'm going back a bit now, showing my age, but, you know, I remember back in the day where it was like tumbleweeds and the shopping centre was
Safeway.
dead. But now, I mean, try getting a park there now when
9 o'clock and 3 o'clock with all the school months.
You know, cafes are booming.
That's right. French's Forest is the other one, 2.4 million. Mona Vale is another one I'd like to mention. Its current median is 2.68, slightly higher, but lovely shopping village. Its prices have increased 206%.
Yeah, and actually, Rich, Mona Vale had a real sort of spike there a few years back. Yeah. But it has settled. I actually think it's a really good area to buy because it's basically settled down now. Yes. And, you know, you got all the major shops there, your access to Pittwater, 2 golf courses, Mona Vale and Bayview, obviously the beach, just the brand new surf club, you know, restaurants and that. It's a terrific suburb.
And the last 2 suburbs I'll mention is North Manly, which has got amazing ripple effect growth from Manly itself. North Manly's currently 3.3, but it's increased 203% over the last 10 years. I picked that many years ago as my top one of my hot 100s. And lastly, Warriewood, currently $2.47 million median, and its prices have increased 182%.
Warriewood's a funny one, Rich. I used to live in Warriewood, and you know, it was, I'll say 15, 16 years ago. And at the time when there was a whole lot of development going on, you know, by Stockland down in the valley there, it sort of got a lot of negative press or a lot of negative comments. But I bought for a few people at the time there who couldn't afford to buy anywhere else. Yes. And funny enough, the growth that they have had has rivaled, if not beaten, any other suburb in the northern beaches.
It's come back from that affordability angle. Getting into the affordable suburb has got more propensity for growth.
Yeah, and the other thing too, if you drive through Warriewood now, all the trees have grown. Yeah. It's softened a lot. It's got some nice nature walks. It's got a great little shopping centre. Yep. Warriewood's a great suburb and full of young families. Yeah.
So are there any other emerging hidden gems, or where should we think about for investors to buy?
Yeah, look, I'd say, again, I see excellent value in comparison to the neighbouring suburbs, the fringe suburbs of, you mentioned North Manly, but Manly Vale's another one. You know, the prices are significantly lower than its neighbouring suburbs. It's well serviced by bus routes, and the B line, the shops and the amenities, so it's got everything. As I mentioned, Elanora Heights. Eleanora's a good one because you compare it to Terry Hills. And Terry Hills is obviously known for some magnificent estates, but the normal average house on the average size block in Terry Hills, if you compare that to Elanora, there's better value in Elanora. You're closer to the beach, and you've actually got, no disrespect to Terry Hills, but you've got you've got a much nice little shopping village, and a nice feel. So I think that offers good value in comparison to there. Proximity to the coast. Wheeler Heights, as I mentioned before, access is a little convoluted in the likes of Wheeler Heights and Cromer, but the value you get is significantly better. Yeah. There is one other suburb, but I'll Brookvale, but I'll happy to talk about that. But please,
are there any other for investors? Are there any parts of the Northern Beaches you think represent good rental demand or good growth prospects?
Yeah, well, in terms of growth, just on still answering, I guess, the last question, Brookvale. Brookvale's one that's really amazed me what Brookvale's done.
Yeah. Well, it used to be considered like a down and out industrial area.
Absolutely.
It used to be kind of a bit of a dog's breakfast,
And still is industrial and commercial. But, I think...
It's got a vibe. I mean, the number of breweries down there is like... it's just off the charts.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been home to Warringah Mall, which is, as I mentioned, the Northern Beaches' largest shopping centre. The main transport line into Manly and the CBD, but it's transformed now into such a desirable place to reside. It's got many cafes and they're boutique breweries, local gyms, rock climbing walls. I had one of my boys down there recently. There's an indoor basketball hoops house, which kids love to spend hours down there. So the suburb really has a vibe. Yeah. And for years, I would have never suggested Brookvale for my residential clients, but now the price point, and this won't last forever, but the price point is actually quite good. And what you're getting, it's funky. It's it's a great spot.
Okay.
Okay,
fantastic. We really appreciate you tuning in to the Property Buyer Podcast, and I hope that you're finding our expert interviews helpful. So that we can keep providing this information and growing our audience, we rely on word-of-mouth recommendations. If you found this information useful, could I please ask you to share this podcast with your friends, family and colleagues and ask them to subscribe to the Property Buyer Podcast. It would be a big help and we'd be very grateful for your support. Thanks once again for sharing the links. And now, let's get back to the podcast.
As far as rental yields are concerned, some of the best yields for houses are found in suburbs such as Frenchs Forest and Warriewood, as we mentioned, because of their proximity to shops and transport. But also the gross yield is looking a lot better because the price point is lower, the purchase price. With respect to units, we're seeing highest yields in probably not the suburbs you'd think, but again, Warriewood, Manlyvale, DY and Brookvale, again, because excellent location, shops and transport, but also because the price points are lower. So obviously the yield is going to be more attractive.
Yeah, a lot of investors have added granny flats as a strategy too. Like back in the day, you could buy a house in Frenchs Forest for $1 million and do a granny flat for $100,000 and you'd get a fantastic yield. You know? You can still get a good yield, but not as good as you could get 10 years ago. So as they say, the best time to buy was 10 years ago. So Matt, I'd love to ask you a bit about, I guess, what are the features that buyers are prioritising now in homes? Is it space? Is it renovation potential? Is it views? Is it schools? What are those things that the buyers really, in terms of the property itself, that they want? Yeah,
look, I think home offices have become highly sought after, whether or not it's a separate building or even just a designated study.
Yes.
The ability to work from home has become more desirable. And there's a lot more industries now where people can work from home. I also think in terms of the property condition, renovation projects have declined a bit. We've got a bit of a swing back.
Swing.
We've got a bit of a
swing back, yeah. I think that's simply because of construction costs.
Can we cut that? That was terrible. Cut that. In terms of property condition, renovation projects have declined a little as buyers have become more aware of the huge increase in building materials and associated construction costs. So there has been a bit of a swing back to homes that are all done.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, got it. Matt, I'd really love to just ask you some stories about how you've helped people find their dream homes. I mean, it's quite a rewarding career, right, being a buyer's agent, because you get to help people achieve their dreams. But can you share a recent story maybe where you've helped solve a tricky dilemma and get a great property for a client?
Sure. I remember one particular client or couple who were new to buying property in Australia. They've been looking on their own for about 6 to 9 months and were exhausted and frustrated and with continually missing out. They came to us with a brief of wanting a house that they could add value to, but also provide a family-friendly lifestyle for their young children. At the time, they were renting in North Balgowlah and loved the community and desperately wanted to stay in the area, but I did tell them from the start that it would be highly unlikely. So we did start looking at alternate suburbs. They had their hearts set on a home in North Manly, but I actually had to talk them out of it. Although it appeared okay on the surface, I suspected there could be some serious drainage issues in periods of persistent rain, which we've seen recently. So I actually contacted my plumber and asked him to meet us at the property, and he confirmed my concern. He mentioned that there would be significant costs involving rectifying the situation. He did this a favour to me, so shout out to Greg Nixon from Gow Plumbing if you're there. Shortly after, a suitable property came up and it actually ended up being back in North Balgowlah. The problem though was that it was listed for auction with the public trustee. It was listed by an out-of-area agent, which I always like because particularly one that I know, and I've known this guy for many years, and I was only one of 3 people to have seen that property. Given its location and potential, our best and really our only chance was to try to secure it before that it was actually even listed. So I had the contract reviewed, lined up all the ducks, completed an appraisal, did all the necessary due diligence, and used my long-term relationship with that agent. And we managed to secure the property before it was advertised to the general public, and which at the time he didn't think was possible because it was involved with the trustee. So overall, a great result. The clients were absolutely thrilled.
Fantastic, well done. And have you had any cases where you've had clients that keep missing out at auction? We call them wounded bulls, where they just keep bidding. But how have you helped those people that have kept missing out? How did you turn that situation around for them? Yeah,
look, I've definitely had clients sign up who have missed out at auction multiple occasions, but that's usually prior to engaging our services. Yes. Usually they've missed out by a large amount initially, so it's a case of re-educating them or educating them on what they can afford. Yes. But it's often because they have no real sense of value and they're influenced and encouraged to attend auctions by misleading selling agents. Yes. So, they're going to auctions when they're never really a chance. But once the client has come on board, we don't usually miss out too often at auction, but because we assess the fair value of each property and do not attend an auction unless I feel we're a chance. That's not to say we're successful, because often there's someone there who's got deeper pockets or someone who gets a bit crazy on the day. But I'd add in most cases, I usually try to secure a property prior to auction where we can negotiate directly with the vendors and avoid that theatre of auction where competing buyers regularly go beyond their comfort limit. Yes. In the event we do have to attend auction, I guess my job is to look as confident as possible and discourage other buyers from going beyond their pre-auction set limit.
Yeah. I've got to say, just a shout out to you, Matt, I've seen this guy in action at auction, and he is formidable. You do not want to be up against Matt Corbett at an auction, because he will run
I don't mind the theatre, Rich.
It's good fun.
I've seen you too, and you're pretty good.
It's good fun.
It is fun. You got to make it.
You got to have a bit of fun. I love the way that we both have banter with the auctioneers. We know them as well. We have fun with Damien Cooley or Vic LaRusso or whoever it is. Having some good banter. But
sure.
Matt, is there also maybe an example you could give us or our audience on negotiating an off-market deal where you got an incredible result for a client? How did that work out for you?
Look, I'm currently in negotiations to secure an off-market prestige home for my clients. The real value on this occasion is that the fact that my clients are the only people that have seen this property. And even the selling agent has kept it quite within his office. which is great.
Wow.
We're just negotiating settlement terms, which would be to be beneficial for both vendor and purchaser. The house is a substantial renovation project, and my clients require the right to lodge a DA. So a long settlement period is beneficial for us, but it's also good for the vendor because they need a long period to relocate. So overall, it actually could be a win-win. Have you got any stories, Rich? I'm sure you have.
Oh, yeah. Look,
yourself.
I've got some great stories to share. I think one of the best ones that comes to mind is earlier this year I bought a property in Freshwater for a client. So Rick and Nikki were a lovely couple, downsizing from St Ives, from the Upper North Shore, raised their family there, 3 kids, and they said, Rich, look, we want to get out of suburbia, so to speak, and get the lifestyle on the beaches. And so they gave me a fairly broad brief. They were even considering buying in Mossman or Cremorne. And I said, well, if you want to be really close to the beaches. Anyway, I showed them some properties in the Lower North Shore there, which weren't quite right, too many stairs, wasn't really quite near enough a cafe. But their brief was, Rich, we want to be able to walk to cafes and walk to beach. And I said, great, that's fine. So after several weeks of looking, I found quite a few off markets. I think I presented around 10 properties to them, all off market. They would never have found on their own. Anyway, I found a great property in Freshwater, directly 1 street behind the shops, the village there.
Nice.
And Freshwater's got a really great village feel, as you know, Matt.
Yeah.
So they'd given me quite a wide. They were fairly wealthy clients. They had a budget of somewhere between $5 to $9 million. I said, wow, that's great. But anyway, I found this great property, 4-bedroom, double lock-up garage. Showed it to the agent. Rang me, said, Rich, I've got something. We'd shown them a couple other ones that weren't quite right, needed too much renovation. And so I took the client through, found out about it on the Monday, took the client through on the Wednesday, then we had it exchanged on Friday. So within 4 days of finding out about this property, I had pest and build done, all the contract reviewed, and property bought for $6.4 million.
Excellent.
So the owner wanted somewhere between 6.5 and 7 million. That was the owner's expectations.
Yeah, okay.
And it was probably worth 6.5 to 6.6.
Yeah.
So the fact that I got, 200 grand off, way more covered their fee that they paid me, but they were absolutely over the moon. They walked in and they went, wow, Rich, we could never have found this on our own. You were the only buyer's agent that listened to what we wanted. So
and I think too,
result.
just getting it off market, Rich, it's not about, you don't buy anything cheap off market, but to be able to just negotiate with a vendor without competition.
Yeah.
Because if that property was listed and you have one other person that's interested, it may have got 7.
I think it might have got in the high 6s to 7. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So Matt, I've got one last question before you're off the hook. Is there any other kind of, how am I going to put this, standout or success story that really captures the value of using a buyer's agent, particularly on the northern beaches?
Oh, look, I'll get a little bit sentimental with this one, but I remember an elderly lady who was looking to downsize and move from the Upper North Shore and to the beaches, and to be close to a grandson or grandchildren, I should say, and her son. The son had actually tried to encourage her to make the move for years. Like he said, 15 years. And the whole process was especially daunting. And, the lady had lived in the home for 50 years.
Yes.
And it's not easy. It's easy for us to say, oh, you'll be so much better on the beaches, whatever, But it's a big move. It's a big move. And look, after meeting with her, I gave her the confidence to make that move. And by acknowledging her or her difficult situation and helping her imagine what life would be like in the new home, and at the same time providing the comfort that I'd support her all the way. The first step was to introduce her to a reputable selling agent and one who would be understanding and empathetic to her situation. And the agent I introduced to her, she assisted her with decluttering and various trays to prepare her home for sale. And simultaneously, I commenced the search. Within 4 weeks, she had actually sold her home with an extended settlement, and not long after, with the constant support of a son, I must add, I was able to secure a beautiful semi in Collaroy Basin. It's a lovely 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home with a lock-up garage and a north-facing garden. And with direct access to transport and the beach, she was just so relieved that she'd been able to make the move. And she called me a few months after, just telling me how happy she was and that I changed a life for the better. And that's, you know, whenever we buy properties for people, you know, they're obviously excited and very grateful for what we've done. But I think in this case, this was a woman who was never going to move, and I think that just made it even more rewarding.
Well done.
Yeah. And she gets to spend. I mean, she'd be early 80s, but she gets to spend the rest of her life seeing her grandkids and her son, who he lives in Collaroy as well. So
fantastic.
Yeah, so
that's great. Great story.
Was really special.
Well, Matt Corbett, Principal Buyers Agent, Northern Beaches, thank you for sharing your thoughts and stories with us today. It's been a pleasure. So
thank you for having me.
So that's all for another edition of the Property Buyer Podcast. If you are interested at all about buying on the Northern Beaches, or please reach out to us. Or if you are looking to sell a property on the Northern Beaches, contact us. We may have a buyer that we can match you up with. Or if you've got any other ways we can help you on your property journey, please don't hesitate to reach out to propertybuyer.com.au. Thanks again for being with us. We look forward to seeing you again on another edition of the Property Buyer Podcast. Bye for now. Thanks for being with us on another Property Buyer Podcast. If you have a question you'd like to ask, please click on the SpeakPipe link and we'll answer this during the next episode. If you're looking to buy a residential or commercial property in the near future and would like to get the added advantage of having a buyer's advocate on your side, then please reach out to my team today and send us your inquiry, and we'd be delighted to help. Please visit our website at propertybuyer.com.au, where you can stay updated with all my latest market updates, weekly blogs and live suburb profiles to help you make better property decisions. We look forward to connecting with you again on the next Property Buyer Podcast.